I'm not gonna. This is a guy at Wayne State. This guy is impossible. I'm just not gonna read it. The one in Canada that was mentioned earlier, he's the one calling it a hoax. What's going on here? You know, I really don't really quite get it. Why the neurologists are, number one, not intrigued, but why are they so hostile? It's really, I don't really get it. You know, my joke is, I thought we were the smartest guys. Neurology in general is very difficult in medical school. It's very difficult, so the arrogant, really smart guys tend to go into it to sort of show off that there can be better medical students. Well, we're not seeing that today. We're just seeing, it's gutsy to call other doctors quacks. That's gutsy. You know, and just layman, that's maybe not such a big deal. But for an MD to call another MD a quack, especially one that's been published in refereed, solid journals, that this is an emotional response that I don't really entirely understand. There's not been one paper in the Academy of Neurology yet. There was an editorial from the guy at Wayne State, Omar Khan, just saying it was experimental. I wrote him an email 3 months ago and said, okay, you're saying experimental, but do you have any actual substance and argument against it? Is there some finding in the virology literature or in the looking at the lesions under a microscope that makes you say it couldn't possibly be vascular? There's been no argument like that. There's not. I keep waiting for some neurologist or some researcher to say, well, gosh, you guys don't know that this has already been settled, and that's why this is an impossible theory. That's not the argument that's being given. The argument that's being given is, it's so different than how we've been looking at MS, even though these people know that the viral and autoimmune theories have not borne out. So I mean, it's very surprising to me. But look what's happened. This is what's happened. The internet, right? Joan Beal, Diane Gordon, famous names. Amber Allstott, sitting up here on the front row. They all sort of have their favorite sites, you know, Facebook versus This Is MS versus Ning.ning, whatever that site is, CCSBI locator, Ken Torbett. Hey, you thought Ken might be here. He's not here today, is he? Oh, Dr. Dake's on the 14th? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it has changed the doctor-patient relationship, right? You've heard these stories of people bringing in the journal articles and relentlessly haranguing the physicians. This is really, really amazing. Okay, so there are definitely some major things we got to figure out. What percent really have it? So there's been a debate, 100 to 60, and now you have this guy in Germany saying 0. I believe Zamboni has already written a rebuttal to this, but it hasn't been published yet.
I believe it's not accepted for publication. Basically, what Zamboni wrote in this very short article was that, in fact, the data that's in Lowe's paper that he's published, a table showing what happens to patients, MS patients, when they go from lying down to sitting up, actually validates the CCSVI theory. Even though they wrote that it didn't validate it, they didn't understand what they were looking at hemodynamically.
All right, so obviously we need to know what their true percentages are. Another key question is that everyone has been alluding to, which is the gold standard is the catheter immunography. What is going to be the correlation between that and whatever the testing is? So right now, at least in my mind, I do the Haacke protocol. I always call it that because that's not just an MRV that any MR suite can do. These studies that Mark's group do, they're sitting over there in the back of the room, takes them, when I was there, it was taking them half a day or longer to do each analysis. It's a very, very detailed analysis. We are doing it now, so I know exactly what that is. But flow quantification is quite time-consuming. So just getting an MRV somewhere, you're likely to have a negative study. As far as I'm concerned, I would not do it any other way than have the data be sent to Haacke's group. They have 10 of them up there. 24 hours a day is what it feels like, grinding away getting this data. But we're going to really need to know. So far, we've now done 15 patients with the IRs in San Diego. So I'm waiting for the one where I said, I called it positive. The Haacke protocol, I called positive, and they find a negative catheter study. That has not happened yet. I hope eventually we do. I think we have to push it so that sometimes the IRs are going to say, you know, your test was not perfect. When I went in and looked, everything was normal. That has not happened one time yet, but we need it to happen. Otherwise, we're not being aggressive enough. You want to have some negative procedures so that you know you're not waiting too long. I actually, Mark?
Can you speak to those somewhere between 15 and 20 cases that have been done? Can you say a few words about what they have found?
It's a placebo. I don't know why you asked that kind of question now. All right, so let me finish my point on this. So far, of the 20 that have been done, every one of them has significant pathology. So as far as I'm concerned, the Haacke protocol has been accurate in saying there's pathology and it being found on the procedure. I actually, Mark just sent me an email last week and said that 25 of 27 had abnormal MRVs, but only 7 of 27 had severe reflux. To our read, only 2 had no reflux. So if anything, I think I want to be highly sensitive. I want to err in the direction that we go in and find nothing. So if I see even a little bit of reflux, or even just going to zero, just stagnation, I'm going to send them on to my IRs. Maybe down the road I won't. Maybe down the road I'll say, no, that's going to be a waste. It's going to be a wasted procedure. But since I haven't had one of those yet, I'm going to go as aggressively as I can. So from my point of view, if the stenosis, if the venogram shows normal-looking vessels and there's no reflux, but one vessel goes to zero, that's good enough for me. That's enough of a reason. It's an abnormal study. It's enough of a reason for me to justify that I recommend a referral for catheter venography and, if positive, venoplasty. Other sources is going to be a problem, right? We focused on the lower jugular and the azygos pretty much so far. There's an ongoing debate that was fascinating in Brooklyn about the upper jugular, whether that's just collapsing on its own or whether there's actually stenosis there. That's going to be great stuff to be following over the next year or two. But what if it's higher up? What if it's in the above the jugular, the sigmoid sinus, the transverse sinus, the straight sinus, smaller vessels? Is it possible that you can have stenoses in the thalamic vessels themselves? We just that's going to be an area that we don't know yet. And then certainly another question that we have to deal with is how do you objectively recognize restenosis? Clinically, it hasn't been hard at all. So what I do is anybody who thinks they've had a restenosis, I get on the phone with them before they even talk to the IR, and I listen to the story. Neurology is a lot about listening to the story, and so it's really quite clear when someone says, this is what got better. And sometimes it can be, my foot changed color. You know, not everybody is having a dramatic change, but my brain fog got better, my headache got better, I'm still using a cane, that didn't change, but now all those symptoms have returned again. If I hear that, then I'm going to talk that over with the IR that did the case, and I think he's going to be willing to go back in. The other alternative is we do some additional testing. We do another MRV, maybe we do the fMRI test. There could be situations where we have to kind of make a call. Do we go right back in and do the catheter procedure again, or do we want to do a little more testing first? So far, it has not been a problem. The people who called me thinking they had a restenosis, I did not think they were. I think basically just had not had as much of an improvement as they hoped they were going to have. That's another question, by the way. It seems like people continue to get better for quite a while. There's a dramatic change right on the table or that day, but then it seems as if over the next weeks, even as long as a month, people continue to get somewhat better.